What was the most gruesome thing you saw at your school? Witnessed the end of a girl being jumped by about 6 other girls in high school. Don't know what exactly they cut her face with, but they tried to cut her eye out and did a pretty close job. Sadly, she went blind in that eye. That was sophomore year and she graduated with us as the second highest GPA. The amount of blood that was there and the eye almost hanging out of her skull was just wild to see. We used to spray soap on the floor in the shower and do penguin slides. One kid got a running start, jumped and slid across the floor on his chest full speed. Right up until he hit the black grip tape on the floor exiting the showers. Ripped one nipple clean off. Or should I say sanded one clean off. My elementary school used to be a high school. We had a huge football field next to the paved playground, with concrete ramps going down to the field, dropping probably 12 feet in from start to finish, and about 40 feet long. Up top, the playground had a little ledge to prevent you from falling down to the ramp, but kids would sit on it because it was perfect kid seat height. I'm sure you know where this is going. There was a spot on the playground where kids could fall backwards 12 feet down onto concrete. That's exactly what happened. A kid was standing next to that ledge and a bigger kid thought it would be funny to throw a football at him really hard. The kid predictably fell backwards when he was hit by it and landed on his head. We could literally see his broken skull, possibly bits of what was inside. The pool of blood slowly expanding around his tiny body. I'll never forget it. Shockingly, the kid survived. He wasn't quite the same after that, traumatic brain injury and all, but he was a second grader. Good chance he'd grow out of it, or at least I hope he did. The fourth grader who threw the ball at him was expelled. It wasn't the first time he'd hurt a little kid. Saw a kid die from cardiac arrest at wrestling practice. I was in 6th grade, he was a 7th grader. We were doing a takedown drill. Him and his partner were right next to me. He got taken down and stopped breathing. Turned purple. They rushed us out of the gym. Apparently, he had a hole in his heart and the doctors warned him not to do sports. Our female gym teacher was a tough lady, built similarly to WWE's China, if that helps paint a picture. Anyhow, kind of a rough school district in the city, and the gym teacher had just gotten this super rough girl suspended for fighting. Upon rough girl returning to school, word was she was going to attack the gym teacher. And well, she did. Only this rough girl, she had stitches in her face from the previous fight, and the gym teacher went right for the stitches. She grabbed them by the handful and just ripped the stitches right out of the girl's face, right there in gym class. In self-defense. In primary school, aged 8 to 9, we'd quite often have those safety scissors, with the rounded tips but still metal, for different crafts and tasks. I remember one time when the teacher had an emergency and had to leave the classroom. The class clown decided this moment was the ideal time to run around the room with said scissors in hand. He tripped, fell towards another child and the scissors went into the back of the other child's hand, removing a good inch or two of flesh to the bone and showering the table in blood. I remember the substitute teacher almost passing out when she got to the classroom. There's a reason they say don't run with scissors. My 8th grade year I saw a kid got run over by a school bus. He died later that day. So he and his friends were playing around and he got pushed and tripped over the curb where the school buses dropped off kids. He got run over by the front tires and then tried to get up before passing back out. The bus driver didn't get charged. I think the kid who pushed him did, but the family didn't press charges because the two kids were super good friends. That kid ended up dropping out and going to cyber school because he was so upset over everything that happened. A guy in wood shop class turned up a lathe at too high a setting, had some boards glued together I think and wanted to make a bat or something. He revved it up and applied a chisel or something during the process. The wood blew apart and it gouged out one of his eyes. Blood everywhere. A kid tripped during cross-country practice and broke his arm. And by broke, I mean broke. About a third of the way down the forearm it was bent 45 degrees. When he got up it was flopping like a dead fish. There wasn't any blood, and the kid wasn't screaming, either. According to him he couldn't feel a thing. The juxtaposition of such an obviously bad injury with the kid casually laughing like wow, my arm looks weird was profoundly unsettling. Our star basketball player died on the court during an afternoon practice. He had an undiagnosed heart condition and that was that. The rest of us players were shuffled into the other gymnasium as a coach grabbed a defibrillator, but at that point it was too late. It was a very sad and surreal experience. A kid grabs some fries from another kid's tray during lunch. Other kid leaps up, grabs him, and bangs his head into a metal railing until it's bleeding. Also in the parking lot, a kid I barely knew pulled me aside and popped his trunk open. Inside were several AK-47s. Not gruesome, but pretty surprising for the time. This was 1995. I watched two girls fight and one grabbed the other by the back of the head and ran her face along the concrete sidewalk. It happened so fast and was over before anyone could break it up. Needless to say, the girl with the pavement facial lost the fight. Two guys were fighting pretty good, saw some blood fly, then we see poop coming out of one kid's pants. They fought from one end of a hall to the other, so the entire hall was covered in blood and poop. Turns out the kid had his spleen ruptured. Felt pretty bad for the kid because from then on he got bullied for not only getting his ass kicked, but pooping his pants in the process, like anyone could have controlled that with a ruptured spleen. Someone threw an Arizona iced tea bottle at a kid's face. Split him open about 6 inches. During 4th grade, my elementary school had a tall rusted fence that blocked the school yard from the outside, and some kid tried to climb it to get a ball back. He slipped on top and his arm got stuck by the top of the railing, perforating his arm and cutting it deep almost from wrist to elbow. He collapsed from shock and loss of blood still stuck to the railing. Fortunately, the fire department got there in less than 15 minutes and they got the kid out of it, saving him. He has this huge scar in his arm, but he's alive, well, and moves his arm well. To this day I can't shake that image out of my mind. My high school had 3 balconies on the 2nd floor. Walking between classes you could see the mass of students moving below. There were massive skylights above, so I assumed this was designed to allow natural light into the ground floor. One day someone thought it would be hilarious to toss an unopened can of soda over the balcony. People start yelling duck and a kid looked up just in time to have the can land right on his eye socket. He lost that eye. Second would probably be the kid who ended up at the bottom of the pile in football practice and came off the field screaming and his thumb was in the middle of his palm. Middle school. Go to bathroom during class, hear yelling inside. Go inside, to find one of the big bads of the school grab a dude by the back of his head and repeatedly slam his face into the sink counter. Blood was flying everywhere. Ran to tell a teacher. Dude got suspended for 2 weeks, the one getting beaten never came back to school as far as I know. They sprayed for insects during the winter break, so when we came back to school, half-dead roaches started crawling out and fully covered the bottom/basement floor where still a lot of classes were held. Some guys played football with them. I had to do some presentation and couldn't stop staring at one twitching his legs on his back where the chalk was. I had to stop and ask someone to please remove it. But they were all over the place. It was bad. In one school I saw a guy hang himself in a tree behind the soccer field. Could see it from the classroom, tried to get teachers' attention when I realized what was going on, but he didn't believe me soon enough to stop it. A few years later I was thrown out the window from the classroom on the 2nd floor by some of my classmates. I went to a Christian school. We had a middle-aged principal who was in his first year of employment at the school. One day at an assembly with all the students he was trying to explain to us how bad it was when Jesus got whipped. He asked a computer teacher to come join him up front to help out his demonstration. He began to take his belt off and handed it to the computer teacher. He then got down on his hands and knees and pulled his shirt up. He said, "Mr. X is going to whip me." The look on the computer teacher's face was like a deer in headlights. He was just as surprised as we were. The principal had to ask him multiple times to please swing the belt. He finally swung it, but very lightly. He was asked to swing the belt again and so he did. Neither of the swings had anything behind it because the poor guy had no intention of hurting anybody that day. We all were in shock at what we had just witnessed. That principal didn't last past that year. I saw a guy pick a fight with another guy who I later found out was a state champion boxer. Duda threw several punches which Dude B easily dodged. When it became clear Duda wasn't going to stop, Dude B threw one right hook. I saw teeth and blood fly, and Duda hit the deck immediately, obviously unconscious. Dude B then backed away with his hands over his head to show he didn't intend to do anything more. One Punch Man.